I want to start first and foremost by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the Akim pushing this word in all sincerity and in all truth. You know, this lesson is going to be, a response pretty much, or just going through this this article that you see here on screen, which is really big news, in the geopolitical and geofinancial spaces, that I don't really see being covered much right now in the news, but this is really significant news, probably one of the most significant news, of the year or of the past few years when it comes to finances and geopolitics, right? So the title says Saudi Arabia's petrodollar exit, a global finance paradigm shift. Right? It says the lapsed security agreement signed by the United States and Saudi Arabia on the 8th of June 1974 establishes two joint commissions, one on economic cooperation and the other on Saudi Arabia's military needs, and was said to have heralded an era of an increasingly close cooperation between the two countries. For brothers, and sisters who, are unaware of this, back in the 1970s, I believe it's 1971 that America came off the gold standard. Let me see if I can find that. When did America ditch the gold standard? Right? Yeah, 1971. So the U.S. abandoned the gold standards in 1971 to curb inflation and prevent foreign nations from overburdening the system by redeeming their dollars for gold, meaning America was sinking. So they removed the gold standard so that the U.S. dollar was no longer pegged to gold, meaning they could print and create as much of it as they needed. But that created also a system of hyperinflation, because the more you print money, if that money doesn't go anywhere, if that money stays within the economy, within the country, right, then the value of that dollar will go down, the value of that currency will go down, because the more of something you have in circulation, the less value it will have intrinsically, right? So they needed somewhere to move that money to, right? And what they did, right, was the then Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, I believe his name was, right, went to Saudi Arabia, right, to broker this deal, right? And the deal was, you use only US dollars when you're selling, right, your oil, right, and you push other nations, right, in the OPEC region, so Saudi Arabia and the other oil producers in the Middle East, you push them also to use only US dollars when you're selling your oil. So that means that global trade in oil was denominated in the US dollar, right? So every nation pretty much traded using US dollars to buy oil. So that created a demand for the US dollar outside of the United States. So it means also that they could constantly print money, right, out of thin air, and their economy would remain relatively stable, because that money would not stay within the United States, but it would be distributed throughout the entire world. So that would alleviate some of the hyperinflation, or prevent hyperinflation and alleviate some of the more negative inflation that would take place if the dollar was to remain in the United States, right? So they call that the petrodollar, right? So it was no longer backed by gold, but now backed by black gold, they called it, which was oil. That agreement ended a couple of days ago, right? So it says American officials, so that deal actually ended on June 9th, 2024. So it was a 50-year agreement. The 50 years lapsed a few days ago, and Saudi Arabia decided not to renew it because, of course, they have decided to join the BRICS, right? American officials at the time expressed optimism that the deal would motivate Saudi Arabia to ramp up its oil production. They also envisioned it as a blueprint for fostering economic collaboration between Washington and other Arab countries. Rubbish. They wanted to secure the American position as the world superpower. And you can't be the superpower if you have crappy currency, right? So they use their military to pretty much broker a deal that propped up the American economy for the past 5 decades, right? The crucial decision not to renew the contract enables Saudi Arabia to sell oil and other goods in multiple currencies including the Chinese renminbi, euros, yen, and yuan, instead of exclusively in US dollars. Additionally, the potential use of digital currencies like Bitcoin may also be considered. The latest development signifies a major shift away from the petrodollar system established in 1972 when the US decoupled its currency from gold and anticipated to hasten the global shift away from the US dollar. Now, this means, of course, that the American economy is going to start feeling it, and people who live in America, are going to start feeling it, right? As the no, this is not going to be an overnight immediate effect, but as the need for dollars wane, right, those dollars are going to start to come back to America, right? Countries, and this that I'm looking now, right, has been happening for years, reducing dependence, right, on US dollar, right? So, de-dollarization, right? It says this is an effort by a growing number of countries to reduce the role of the US dollar in international trade. Countries like India, China, Brazil, Malaysia, and Bolivia, among others, are seeking to set up trade channels using currencies other than the almighty dollar, right? So this has been happening, right, constantly, for years. The two of the biggest holders of US debt are China and Russia. And both China and Russia have been significantly reducing their dependence on the US dollar by selling off their dollar reserves, right, and doing bilateral trades with their own currency, with the Russian ruble, with the Chinese yuan or the renminbi, or Japan, using the Japanese yen more and reducing also their dependence on the US dollar. What does this mean? This means that more US dollars will now not be moving out of the country, but will remain within the US economy and will ultimately lead to what? Inflation, right? This is Micah 6 and verse 10. What shall I say about the homes of the wicked filled with treasures gained by cheating, right? Because ultimately that's what America did. They used their extreme military might, right, to bully Saudi Arabia, because really and truly that's what happened, to bully Saudi Arabia, to say, hey, we will, because they created, what they call it, political instability within the Middle East, and then use that now as leverage to say, hey, the Middle East is unstable, you have enemies, we can protect you, and in return for that protection, you will only use our dollar, right, to settle your transactions for oil, right? So it says, what shall I say about the homes of the wicked filled with treasures gained by cheating? What about the disgusting practice of measuring out grain with dishonest measures? Because when you have a money printer, pretty much, you just print money infinitely. We started with QE1 back in 2008, 2009 when the financial crisis happened. And they've just been printing money, right? When you have that, where you're constantly increasing the money supply, right, that should decrease the value of the dollar, that should also increase inflation. But because you have the system whereby the world is forced to use your currency, right, because they need it for dollar, you've created a hedge, against inflation, but in turn you've also reduced the value of those who are holding your currency as reserve. So if I say, okay, I'm gonna buy some US dollars because it's stable and I need to save in that, and it's a stable currency to save in. When you now print trillions of dollars and pump that out into the economy, into the world, you've now reduced the value of my savings, right? That's a dishonest measure. How can I tolerate your merchants who use dishonest scales and weights? The rich among you have become wealthy through extortion and violence, and that's what America has done. There are multiple countries who have decided, who had decided to leave the petrodollar. Muammar Gaddafi is an example of that. Saddam Hussein is an example of that. And what do you see happen? They get invaded. A narrative is created to point them in a negative light to justify the United States invading and taking over, that country and killing that leader because they threatened what? The almighty petrodollar, right? It says, so the rich have become what? Wealthy through extortion and violence. Your citizens are so used to lying that their tongues can no longer tell the truth. And if you talk to the average American, they have no idea what's going on. They just regurgitate the lies that they see on social media and especially on the mainstream media. So they have no idea what's going on, right? This is Isaiah 47 verse 1, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstone, grind milk, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover thy thigh, and pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, I will not meet thee as a man. So America, Babylon is destroyed, right? We would have healed Babylon, but we can't heal it. There's no cure for her sickness, right? And of course, America will not go gently into that night, right? America will not go gently into that dark night. They're gonna fight, right? So no more than ever, they need to justify global armed conflicts, because through wars, right, nations become rich and nations become poor, right? And America still has the biggest military in the world, right? So they will rely on that to try to prop themselves up, right? So I want to go into the second section of this now, right, where it says, in a more recent move, Saudi Arabia has announced its involvement in Project Enbridge, a project which explores a multi-central bank digital currency, CBDC, platform shared among participating central banks and commercial banks. It is built on a distributed ledger technology to enable instant cross-border settlements and foreign exchange transactions. This is the future. The American dollar is the past. The future is central bank digital currencies, and instant cross-border payment settlements through a distributed ledger system. That is what is the future, and that is what Saudi Arabia, one of the things that Saudi Arabia is going to be pushing toward. And we know, right, the CBDC, right, is linked to the implementation of the RFID microchip. This is all about creating that framework where the MOTB is gonna be mandated, right? Money, as you know it now, will no longer exist. A lot of people think that going to the CBDCs is just gonna be money being digital. Money is already digital now. You can pay for things with credit cards. You can do transactions from your bank account to somebody else's bank account. But the system itself that surrounds that is gonna change, right? They're not gonna use the same ACH transfer, the same real-time gross settlement transfer. No, it's gonna be different. This is gonna be on the blockchain, right? It's gonna be tied to your identity, to your digital identity, right? You're gonna be intricately and inseparably tied to each transaction you make, right? Everything will be commoditized so that you can create a digital representation of that. Your car will be commoditized. Your house will be commoditized. The clothes that you buy will be commoditized. Everything will be not commoditized. The word is tokenized, right? Everything will be tokenized, right? Let's see if I can look up that tokenization. Tokenization is the process of creating a digital representation of a real thing. Tokenization can be used to protect sensitive data or to efficiently process large amounts of data, right? So your car is going to be tokenized. A digital representation will be created. Your house, everything that you buy, right? Services that you consume, right, will be tokenized so as to have a digital representation on the blockchain and be, tracked, regulated, all of that will happen, right? So we're going to wrap here, in, of course, bringing out Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, that charagma, their right hand, left hand, butt cheek, wherever you want to put it, right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So hopefully this lesson was edifying. Till next time, shalom.